Noah, I just did the coffee challenge, and boy, was it awkward.
I brought out the soft, fluffy chair because this conversation is going to be a little bit hard. You see, I recently talked with Noah Kagan. Noah is a serial entrepreneur, and he's been building his wealth since he was in high school, which means that now he's worth $10 million. Noah is by far one of the most successful people I've talked to on this channel. Our conversation went in a lot of twists and turns. So what I'm giving you today is kind of like the key takeaways. And the key takeaways are this. You and I, we're doing a lot of things to screw up our chances of making $10 million. In my conversation with Noah, he explained 5 things that a lot of new entrepreneurs do that get in the way of their own success. So in this video, we're gonna face up to what exactly those 5 things are. And along the way, I'll admit to how I've been guilty of each of these 5 mistakes. Please don't make me the only one who's sharing personal stories here. If you've made any of these mistakes, share them in the comments below. You literally can't afford to go another day making these mistakes. So watch on, let's get right to it. The first thing that we're all guilty of, and that's getting in the way of us building successful businesses and building true wealth, we're afraid of rejection. Yeah, Noah has this amazing way of showing you just how afraid of rejection you are. It's called the coffee challenge. And when I first heard about the coffee challenge, I didn't like it.
It basically is you just go to a coffee shop anytime or you buy anything and you just say, hey, can I get 10% off this purchase? And they'll be like, why? You're like, well, just cause. And you don't have to explain it. You don't want to. The idea here is to get rejected. The idea is to fail. And what's fascinating about that, and what's fascinating about a lot of these confidence challenges and building confidence and overcoming fear is small wins and realizing it's a muscle. It's just like going to the gym. It's just like it's like being a Facebook ad person or an overload dropshipper. It takes practice. But I think we don't think of it that way. We just think, oh, I just will do it. But what I've realized for myself is the more that I can do these small challenges, the more I can have small wins, the more I can face bigger things and have a more fulfilling life. So for you, when I'm curious, Jessica, like what did you feel when I said, oh, the coffee challenge, and you've heard of it, but you haven't done it?
Part of me, I had, if I could describe the feeling, it would be squeegee, like squidgy or something. Like it just feels like, why? Oh, this feels pointless. Why would I do this? I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to put the other person in an uncomfortable position. And so those are the fears that bubble up in me. When you're right, this is such a small thing to ask someone for.
10% off.
But this is the comment that you made about like, it's not about getting 10% off. It's about being told, no, you cannot. And being like, cool. And just going about your day, buying the coffee as you normally would. And just
and you go on.
Yeah, you're not going to argue with them for the 10%. So I did the coffee cup challenge and it was super awkward. I approached a guy who worked as the barista at my local coffee shop. And when he told me how much my coffee was, I said, can I get 50 cents off? And he was totally confused. And he thought maybe there was a mistake and he asked why. And I said, oh, just because it'd be nice to say 50 cents. And then he was really apologetic. He was like, if it was my store, I would. At the end of all this awkwardness, however, he ended up talking to me about the coffee and we had this really nice connection. I don't know if that connection would have happened if I hadn't done the coffee challenge. Was I rejected? Yes, but I actually got something extra out of it. If you've never done the coffee challenge, give it a try. And by the way, Noah has more detail on this challenge in his own YouTube channel, and I'll leave a link to that below so that you can check it out. Okay, the second bad habit you and I were both guilty of on the way to becoming successful entrepreneurs, we're pursuing projects that don't interest us, aren't profitable, or both.
Hey, what am I really just interested in? What have been the combination or the Venn diagrams of, and this is what business is, Venn diagrams of things I like to do in the world, Venn diagram of what people want to pay money for. And in that middle is where you can live in fulfillment. And I think a lot of us, especially early on, I know I chased a lot of opportunities. I was like, oh, blogging's big. Let's do that. Facebook games are big. Let's try to make money on that. Content creator. Like what's interesting about content creators, I used to hate Kim Kardashian. I hated Kim Kardashian. I'm like, okay, you're famous because you got a big behind. Like, I don't like it. Like that makes this like, you didn't do anything. Like you were born. Good job. What I've realized is that to be successful in anything, it requires to be a professional. And it requires a lot of time. And I think there's a lot of misleading information out there where it's like, hey, watch this thing, take this course, and overnight you're successful. And I like discouraging that and encouraging people to find the thing that they want to work on for the 10 years that it takes to create success.
That all rings true with the interviews that I've had with entrepreneurs, in the sense that the reason they're successful entrepreneurs and perhaps someone watching isn't or isn't yet is a matter of time and hard work and very little else. But one of the things you had said that I found interesting was you were talking about, don't take kind of different life paths, take inspiration from them, and then create your own. A lot of people who subscribe to this channel get into dropshipping or print on demand or cryptocurrency just because, only because they want to make money. I can tell you for a fact, a lot of these people quit after 1 or 2 weeks. Why? Well, the profits just don't roll in as fast as they were expecting to. And since that's the whole reason they got into dropshipping in the first place, they quit just like that. The people who make money starting their businesses, whether it's dropshipping, print on demand, or building their own store to sell soy candles or whatever, they all have something in common. They're all persistent and they have a natural interest in the business aside from just making money. Sometimes this means they're interested in what they're selling. Sometimes it means they're interested in building all the processes that go into a successful business. So to set yourself up for success, take Noah's advice into account. List your interests and think broadly. One exercise that I like to do is think of all the verbs I like doing in a day. Sometimes that's specific, like I like writing, and other times that's more broad. I like talking to strangers, for example. When you have a long list, then you can think more creatively about how to connect those interests to ventures that could make you money. I'll tell you something I did just for the money. I signed up for this app where I could give reviews of products and then they would pay me, or at least I thought that's how it worked. However, I had no natural interest in either reviewing things or in the products that I was given to review. So what happened? Well, just like those beginner dropshippers, I stuck with that for about 2 weeks before I decided that the $1.50 that I made wasn't enough to justify the effort. I gave up. Now, I'm sure there are lots of people who succeeded with that app and made a lot more money than I did, but that's because they put more effort into it because they were naturally interested in the products or writing reviews or something like that. Wait, but the subject of making money is the number 3 mistake on this list.
I think that's a great point. I think to be an entrepreneur, again, it's to be dissatisfied. Like, I think if you're, and this is a good and bad, to be a dissatisfied person means that you want something else. You're unhappy with the way cookies taste or cupcakes taste. You're unhappy with the way that finding software, or you're unhappy with how things are reviewed online. I think what we were talking about earlier that people need to explore, we were talking about fulfillment. And Tony Robbins has a quote that I really do love, is like, success without fulfillment is empty. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Well, and look, if you're poor, don't worry about that quote. Just try to get a little bit of money so that you can get your foundation set up and then work on fulfillment. But I think what people need to explore, and what I've explored, is just like, what makes my day fulfilled? And be intentional about it. Don't hope for it. Don't be like, I hope I get $1 million. Like, no, let's work on, like, what things do you really enjoy working on, or what do you not enjoy working on? And let's try to be a little bit more intentional about spending time in those zones. And so I made a list, like, I don't know, 2 months ago. And I was like, all right, how do I spend more of my week in that zone? Like, and for me, it's like doing conversations like this, or it's creating content on YouTube, or it's doing marketing experiments. And I'm like, oh, if I could just spend my whole week doing that and I can make enough money to live the life I want, that's pretty damn great. Yeah. I think where a lot of people starting out get off track is they're like, I want passive income. I want this, I want that, which is great. It's great to want things. And materialism is not bad. I've really come to embrace that materialism is great to some extent. But I think what people need to be very clear on is, how much do you actually need? So a lot of people watch this, they're like, I want a dropshipping business, or I want a Shopify business, or I want to run this. It's like, well, how much do you actually want to make? And let's work backwards. Let's actually be a little bit more scientific.
Yeah, I don't think anyone who's watching this video doesn't want to be a 6 or 7 or 8-figure entrepreneur. But according to Noah, the way to achieve that kind of success is not by saying, oh, I'm gonna make $1 million in 1 year. No, you've got to break that goal down into smaller chunks, and you have to tie money with something specifically valuable to you. To give you an example of what I mean, let me just get something from my living room real quick. When I first moved to Berlin, I was freelancing. And I wasn't making very much money doing it. You see, I don't speak German, and that was kind of limiting my freelance opportunities. So to make ends meet, I was subletting a room from a girl, and I just was living at a standard below what I had been used to for years. However, I dreamed of a better day, a day when I would be making money and able to be in my own nice apartment with nice things. And one of the items that to me symbolized that success were overpriced candles. I love it. I loved the idea of making so much money that I could afford a frivolous but very nice, fragrant, overpriced candle for my own personal space. I really wanted to be a six-figure freelancer. I started by saying, okay, let me just make enough this month that I can afford a $50 candle. I'm not saying it makes sense to buy a $50 candle. I'm just saying that made sense to me. I'd encourage you to go through this same exercise. Think of the items that could represent success to you, whether they be small or big, and start out by aiming for those small items or experiences that you want that you could get if you start making a little bit more money. And then start graduating into making more money so you can get more experiences and things that add value to your life. Money is at its best when it's a tool to help you become the most you can possibly be. So look for the experiences and items that do that empower you to do more in life. But as you dream big, don't make mistake number 4 on this list. Take it from Noah.
Then I'll read. So today I'm reading, it's called A Book About Love. And it's about relationships. So I think you have to learn. It could be learning watching a YouTube video on Oberlo. It could be learning doing something like I'm learning how to fly a plane. So it could be reading a book on that. It could be whatever, but just learn something because I think it's about growing. The two other things that have really mattered to me is looking at where I'm trying to go and looking at who I am. I call them Noah-isms, or where am I trying to go? So every morning I read this document. I'll show it to you. It's called Daily, and I read it every single day. It's on my checklist. It's part of my Maker Morning. And what it does is basically is like who I am as a person. And so some of the things in here, it's like show up. Being a man is to show up. Other parts of it is like greatness. Greatness is keep moving forward. Recharge, make time to enjoy yourself, and sleep heals you. Be a stable foundation. So I have just kind of things that remind me of who I am and what matters to me. And I revise it sometimes. Then I look at my goals for the year. It's something that we talked about earlier is what do I want to do this year? So for me, I want to, I have a word, congruency. So I want to be congruent in my work, in my personal, in my health. So some of my goals is like, I want 250,000 YouTube subscribers. I want to do 100,000 push-ups. I want to live in a van for 2 weeks. I wanted to go to Oktoberfest in Munich, but it got canceled. So I have to figure something else out. And so I think what's helpful about that and really critical is that I think you have to have your goals be clear, and I think you have to look at them every single day. There's one more thing. Okay. So that is basically, because I think you have to remind yourself who you are and where you want to go. And then the last thing I do is I just write down what I'm grateful for. And I just put in a note and I just have a reminder. I say, hey, Siri, remind me every morning at 9 a.m. to write what I'm grateful for. Bucket list years. So I don't really know what's going to happen in 10 years. I didn't know the internet was going to come. I didn't know like iPhones. I didn't know about Corona. But I'm pretty sure what's going to happen in a year. And so I think if we can actually give ourselves more digestible timeframes, it makes it more easier to accomplish.
Just like you want to keep your monetary goals manageable, you want to keep your timelines manageable too. Fine to have Pinterest boards for the next 10 years. I have them. However, I'm keeping my focus on the year ahead. 2020 is the perfect example of why you can't plan that long term ahead. Perfect example of when I planned too far ahead is when I was graduating from college and I was planning to go to law school. I thought, yes, in 5 years, I'm going to be an associate, making so much money, being so miserable. I took out some loans, went to law school, and the recession hit.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I'm doing all right now, but my point is that life will throw you curveballs. Have a long-term vision, but short-term focus, and you'll be much better prepared for those curveballs life will throw at you. The final mistake we're all making on our path to building businesses and, well, we're not structuring our days for success.
How do you make sure that you have success in your day? And I think too much of people wanting to be entrepreneurs or people having day jobs, they leave it to chance. They're like, I'd like to be rich, but I'm not sure how it's going to happen. I'm like, well, why don't we just plan for it? And so what I've done over the past, I'm almost 30, I'm almost 40. So in the past 40 years, like figured out how to have a foundation. Like think about a house, like every house has a foundation. It's not just like, let me put up a stick here and then I'll put up a tent thing over there. It's like, no, let's start somewhere. I encourage everyone to do a 30-day challenge. So let me explain mine. I try to identify like what makes a day great. And so how do I just have my morning great? And well, the key thing here is I don't do anything else. Like I don't get on Instagram. I don't get on my social media. I don't do anything else until my foundation is set up.
If you correct for all the mistakes we've talked about in this video, you've set good goals, you're on reasonable timeframes, but then you don't do anything in your day to give yourself time to work towards these goals, well, all your work is for nothing. Don't set it and forget it. Create an action plan. Noah advises that you create a morning routine checklist and then follow it for 30 days. Follow this routine as soon as you wake up. No checking social media, get right to your routine. Because once you have all those really important things done in the morning, you're free to enjoy the little distractions that might come up in the evening while still making meaningful progress towards your goals. After 30 days, note how this has changed your productivity. Me, I'm doing that right now. I decided I wanted to take Chloe Ting's Summer Shred Challenge. So for the next 4 weeks, I'm getting up early and doing every day of her summer shred until I have a six-pack. No. Maybe I don't get a six-pack, but I'm excited to see what happens after just 30 days of sticking with something. I'm gonna note my progress and how that's affected my mindset and my productivity, and I encourage you to do the same. For more advice from super successful serial entrepreneur Noah Kagan, make sure to check out the links below. Wait, you look familiar. Have you been watching videos on this channel before? Because I think I've seen you around, and I don't need to make this awkward, but I don't think you're subscribed. No big deal, just hit the subscribe button because then the next time you're here, I'll recognize you as a subscriber, it will be awkward, and you'll be getting tons of great videos from this channel about building a business and driving traffic to your online store. I mean, I'll make this worth your while. There's literally no downside to subscribing. Now go build your empire, and I'll see you here next week.